He came home every night, smelling of cold air and cheap coffee. His tie was always loosened, his eyes always tired, and his phone always silent when it mattered most. At first, Maya thought it was dedication, a man working overtime to provide, a husband sacrificing sleep for stability. But overtime slowly became midnight. Midnight slowly became 1 in the morning. 1 in the morning slowly became something that felt like a lie. The house changed with his schedule. Dinner plates sat untouched. The children stopped asking when he would be home. The clock on the wall became the loudest sound in the living room. Tick, tick, tick. Each tick felt like proof that he was somewhere else. Somewhere he refused to describe. Maya began to notice details she once ignored. His shirt smelled unfamiliar, not perfume exactly, but something sterile, sharp, like disinfectant mixed with dust. There were faint creases in his clothes that did not match an office chair. His hands sometimes trembled when he reached for water. His smile arrived half a second too late. His answers became shorter, careful, measured. She asked simple questions. How was work? Why so late? Who keeps you there this long? He responded with calm repetition. Meetings, deadlines, extra projects, always the same tone, always steady, too steady. Adam began watching him differently. A teenage son learning to measure truth in eye contact. Daniel avoided it, not obviously, just enough to plant doubt. His daughter once hugged him when he walked in. Now she watched from the hallway, silent, observing. One night, Maya stood at the bedroom window and saw his car turn the corner. It was 1:40, 3 inches the morning. The streetlights cast long shadows across the driveway. When he stepped out, he looked around first, a quick glance to the left, then to the right, as if checking who might be watching. Her stomach tightened. That was the moment suspicion stopped being a thought and became a presence. It sat at the dinner table. It slept between them at night. It whispered when his phone vibrated, and he stepped into another room to answer. Then came the night the office line rang without response. Maya called twice, 3 times. A recorded message answered calmly. Office hours end at 7. But he never came home at 7. Adam searched online maps the next day. He tracked the location from a receipt left in Daniel's jacket pocket. A small charge, $20, repeated weekly. The address led to a narrow street on the edge of town. An old brick building, no company name. No corporate logo, just a faded red sign that flickered after dark. Adam drove past it with a friend, parked across the street, waited, and at 11:58 that night, Daniel's car pulled up. He stepped out slowly, looked around, then disappeared inside. No hesitation, no confusion, like a man who had been there many times before. Adam took a photo through the windshield, blurry, but clear enough. When Maya saw it, something inside her cracked. The evidence felt undeniable. Late nights, hidden location, strange smell, careful answers, all pointing toward a truth she feared to say aloud. The house felt colder that evening. Dinner remained untouched again. The children sat in silence, waiting. When headlights finally swept across the curtains, no one moved. No one prepared a warm greeting. No one pretended anymore. They stood together in the kitchen, 3 shadows under one harsh light, listening to the key slide into the lock, listening to the door open slowly. And as Daniel stepped inside with exhaustion written across his face, he had no idea that the family he believed he was protecting had already prepared their verdict. The porch light flickered as Daniel stepped out of his car. It was 1:47 inches the morning. The street was silent except for the hum of distant power lines. A cold wind brushed against his face. He closed his eyes for a moment. Exhaustion pressed down on him like wet concrete. Inside the house, every light was off. Or at least, that was what he expected. The kitchen light snapped on. Daniel froze beside his car. His heart began to pound in slow, heavy beats. He grabbed his briefcase from the passenger seat. The leather handle felt damp in his sweaty palm. He walked toward the door. Each step felt heavier than the last. Through the thin curtain, he saw a shadow move. Not one shadow, 3. His wife, his teenage son, his younger daughter, all standing still, watching. He unlocked the door. The metal key scraped loudly in the silence. The door opened before he could turn the handle. Maya stood there. Her eyes were red, not from sleep, from crying. The air inside the house felt thick, heavy, accusing. His son, Adam, stood behind her with crossed arms, his jaw clenched tight. His daughter clutched her phone like it was evidence in a trial. Daniel stepped inside slowly. He placed his briefcase down. No one said a word. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it ever had before. Tick, tick, tick. Maya spoke first. Her voice trembled, but it carried sharp edges. Where are you really going every night? The question hung in the air. Daniel felt it land on his chest. He swallowed. I told you. The office. Adam let out a bitter laugh. At 1 in the morning, Daniel felt heat rise to his face. He smelled the faint scent of burned toast from the kitchen. Or maybe something else had burned. Trust. Maya stepped closer. Her perfume was familiar. Lavender. Tonight it smelled distant. We called your office, she said. They said you leave at 7. The words hit like a hammer. Daniel blinked. He opened his mouth to speak. No sound came out. His daughter raised her phone. There is more. She pressed the screen. A photo appeared, blurry, taken from across the street. Daniel standing outside a small building. At midnight, the sign above the door glowed faintly red. Adam's voice cracked with anger. Who is she? Daniel looked at the photo. His stomach tightened. The building looked worse in the picture. Shabby. Old bricks, a broken window on the 2nd floor. He felt the weight of their stares. Maya's voice dropped to a whisper. Tell us the truth. The silence that followed felt endless. Daniel's ears rang. He could hear his own breathing. Slow, shaky. He thought of the nights he had walked into that building. The smell of dust and antiseptic. The dim hallway lights. The sound of coughing from behind thin doors. He looked at his children. They looked back at him like strangers. I can explain, he said. Adam shook his head. Then explain. Daniel bent down slowly. He opened his briefcase. His hands trembled. Inside were stacks of papers, receipts, medical forms, envelopes with hospital logos. Maya's eyes narrowed. What is this? Daniel pulled out a folded document. He placed it on the kitchen table. The paper made a soft slap against the wood. Maya stepped forward. She read the top line. Her hand flew to her mouth. The words were clear. Cancer treatment payment plan. The room seemed to shrink. Adam stared at his father. His anger faltered. Daniel's voice cracked as he spoke. My father is dying. The confession felt raw, exposed. He never wanted you to know. The clock continued its steady ticking. Daniel felt tears sting his eyes. The building in the photo is a private care center. He forced himself to continue. I go there every night after work. I help with his bills. I clean his room. I sit with him when he cannot sleep. Maya's breathing became uneven. You said he was fine. Daniel nodded slowly. He made me promise to keep it quiet. Adam stepped closer to the table. He looked at the documents. His hands trembled slightly. There is more, Daniel whispered. The words hung heavy again. He reached back into the briefcase. This time, he pulled out something smaller. A thin velvet box. Dark blue. Maya stared at it. Confusion replaced anger. Daniel opened the box. Inside was a delicate silver necklace. Simple. Elegant. Maya looked up at him. Her eyes filled with tears. I have been working overtime to pay for his treatment, Daniel said softly. And to buy this. Her lips parted. For our anniversary next week. The room went silent again, but the silence felt different. Fragile. Daniel felt the pressure in his chest begin to crack. He had carried this secret alone for months. The late nights, the whispered lies, the exhaustion, all to protect his father's pride, all to surprise his wife. Maya stepped toward him slowly. Her hands shook as she touched the necklace. You should have told us, she said. Her voice broke halfway through. Daniel felt a sudden wave of dizziness, stronger than before. The room tilted slightly. Adam reached out. Dad? Daniel tried to steady himself on the table. His vision blurred. A sharp pain shot through his chest. Hot. Intense? He gasped. The sound echoed in the kitchen. Maya's eyes widened in horror. Daniel collapsed to his knees. The floor felt cold against his skin. He heard his daughter scream. The sound felt distant, as if underwater. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. Too fast. Too loud. Then suddenly weaker. He thought of his father, alone in that dim room, waiting. Daniel tried to speak, to say something, anything, but the pain spread like fire. Maya knelt beside him, her hands pressed against his chest. Her tears fell onto his face. Adam grabbed his phone with shaking fingers, calling for help. Daniel's breath came in shallow bursts. The kitchen light above him flickered once, twice. His vision darkened at the edges. He heard Maya whisper his name over and over, her voice filled with fear. Regret. Love. And as the sound of distant sirens began to rise outside the house, Daniel realized something that made his chest ache even more than the pain spreading through his body. The secret he tried so hard to protect had nearly destroyed the very family he was trying to save. The front door burst open as paramedics rushed in. Bright white lights flooded his fading vision. Cold hands lifted him onto a stretcher. Maya's cries followed him down the hallway. The necklace box remained open on the kitchen table, the silver chain catching the harsh light, shining quietly, like a promise that might never be given. The ambulance doors slammed shut. Red lights flashed against the dark sky. Daniel felt the vehicle lurch forward. Every bump in the road sent a shock through his chest. The oxygen mask pressed tightly against his face. Cold air rushed into his lungs. A paramedic's voice echoed above him. "Stay with us, sir. Stay." The words sounded fragile. Daniel tried to focus on the ceiling of the ambulance. White, cracked near the corners. His fingers twitched. He thought of Maya's face, her tears, her trembling hands. He thought of his father, alone in that narrow bed, waiting for him tomorrow night. The sirens wailed louder. Then everything faded to black. When he opened his eyes again, the world smelled of disinfectant and metal. Bright hospital lights burned into his vision. A steady beeping sound filled the room. Beep. Beep? Beep. His chest felt heavy, tight, as if something foreign rested inside it. He tried to move. Pain stopped him. A figure leaned over him. Maya. Her hair was messy, her eyes swollen. But she was there. "You scared us," she whispered. Her voice shook. Daniel tried to speak. Only a weak breath escaped. A doctor stepped into view. Serious expression. "Calm eyes. You experienced a severe cardiac episode," the doctor said. "Stress-induced." The words settled heavily in the air. Stress. Secrets. Silence. Maya squeezed his hand. Adam stood behind her, guilt written across his face. His daughter stood near the window, silent. Daniel noticed something else. A second hospital bed in the same room, separated by a thin curtain. A familiar cough came from behind it. Dry. Weak. Daniel's heart skipped. "Dad?" he whispered faintly. Maya looked confused. The curtain slowly moved aside. There he was, his father, thinner than before, skin pale against the white pillow, tubes running from his arms. His father managed a faint smile. "You were supposed to keep this quiet," the old man said softly. Daniel felt tears gather in his eyes. "I tried," he replied weakly. Maya looked between them. Shock replaced confusion. "You knew?" she asked the older man. His father nodded slowly. "I asked him not to tell you." The beeping of the machines filled the silence again. Adam stepped closer. "Why?" The old man's eyes shifted to Daniel. "Pride," he answered. Daniel felt the weight of that single word. Years of it. Generations of it. The doctor cleared his throat. "There is something else you should know." Maya stiffened. Daniel felt tension crawl up his spine. The doctor looked at the chart in his hands. "Your heart shows signs of long-term strain." Daniel frowned slightly. "What does that mean?" Maya asked. The doctor hesitated. "It means this was not sudden." Daniel's breathing slowed. "It has been building for months." The room felt colder. Maya looked at him with wide eyes. "You felt this before?" Daniel looked away. He remembered the tightness during late nights, the sharp ache while climbing stairs at the care center, the dizziness he ignored. "I thought it was nothing," he admitted quietly. His father shifted in his bed. Anger flickered across his tired face. "You fool," the old man muttered. Daniel gave a weak smile. The doctor continued. "If you continue like this, the next episode may not give you a warning." The words sliced through the room. Adam clenched his fists. "So what now?" The doctor's tone became firm. "He needs rest. No stress. No late nights." Daniel stared at the ceiling. No late nights. But the bills, the treatment, the promises. Maya seemed to read his thoughts. "We will handle it together," she said. Her voice carried strength this time. No accusation. No doubt. His daughter stepped forward. "We can help too." Daniel felt something shift inside him. Not pain, something warmer. Relief, mixed with shame. His father coughed again. More violently this time. Nurses rushed in. Machines beeped faster. Daniel tried to sit up. Pain shot through his chest again. The curtain was pulled back quickly. Doctors surrounded his father's bed. Urgent whispers filled the room. Maya gripped Daniel's hand tightly. His father's breathing became ragged, unstable. The heart monitor beside him began to spike, then dip, spike again. Daniel's own monitor reacted to his rising pulse. Beep, beep, faster now. A nurse turned toward Daniel. "Stay calm," she instructed. But how could he remain calm? His father reached a trembling hand toward him. Through the small space between beds, their fingers barely touched. I am proud of you, the old man whispered. The words felt heavier than anything else that night. Daniel's vision blurred again. The monitor beside his father let out a long, piercing sound. Flat, unbroken. The room erupted into motion. Doctors began compressions. Commands were shouted. Daniel felt helpless, trapped in his own bed, forced to watch. Maya buried her face in Daniel's shoulder. Adam stood frozen. His daughter began to sob quietly. The flat tone continued, relentless. Then suddenly, a sharp beep. One spike on the screen. Another. Faint. Weak. But present. The doctors worked quickly, stabilizing, adjusting machines. The tone shifted back into an uneven rhythm. Not steady, but alive. Daniel released a breath he did not realize he was holding. Tears streamed silently down his face. His father lay motionless, exhausted beyond words. The crisis slowed. The room gradually emptied. Only the soft beeping of two heart monitors remained, side by side. Fragile rhythms fighting to continue. Maya looked at Daniel. We almost lost both of you tonight. Her voice was barely audible. Daniel stared at the ceiling again. White, cold, unforgiving. He realized something deeper than fear. Secrets had nearly buried them all. Pride had nearly stolen their final moments. His father's weak breathing filled the quiet space. Daniel closed his eyes, not to escape, but to promise himself something new. No more silence. No more carrying the world alone. Outside the hospital window, dawn began to break. A pale orange light stretched across the horizon. But inside that room, the future remained uncertain. Two fragile heartbeats echoed in the stillness. Uneven, unpredictable, and the next test results were still waiting to be revealed. The hospital room felt smaller after that night, not because of the walls, but because of everything left unsaid. Daniel lay still, listening to the uneven rhythm of his own heartbeat. Beep. Pause. Beep? Each sound reminded him how close he had come to silence. Across the thin curtain, his father breathed with the help of machines. Slow, fragile. Every inhale sounded borrowed. Morning light slipped through the blinds. Soft, almost gentle. Maya sat beside Daniel's bed. Her fingers wrapped around his hand as if letting go might shatter him. Her eyes carried exhaustion, but also clarity. Adam stood near the window, staring at the city below. His jaw no longer clenched in anger. Now it tightened with regret. His daughter rested her head against the wall, watching both hospital beds at once. 2 generations. 2 failing hearts. One family learning too late what silence costs. Daniel turned his head slightly toward his father's side of the room. The old man's eyes were half open, clouded, but aware. For a brief moment, their gazes met. No pride this time, no stubborn strength, only understanding. The machines hummed steadily, but the rhythm on his father's monitor began to dip again. Lower, slower. A nurse stepped inside quietly, checked the readings, adjusted a setting, left without speaking. The room returned to its fragile stillness. Daniel felt a deep ache in his chest, not sharp like before, heavier, emotional. He realized the overtime had never truly been about money. It had been about control, about trying to outrun loss, about believing he alone could hold everything together. Maya leaned closer. We are here, she whispered, not accusing, not questioning, just present. Adam finally turned from the window. I was wrong about you, he said quietly. Daniel swallowed hard. You were scared, Daniel replied. So was I. His daughter stepped forward and gently placed the velvet necklace box on the bedside table. It had been brought from home. The silver chain inside caught the pale morning light, a symbol of a future that almost vanished. Across the room, his father's breathing grew uneven again, short bursts. Then a long pause. The monitor flickered unpredictably. Maya gripped Daniel's hand tighter. Adam moved closer to the curtain. Daniel forced himself upright despite the pain. He needed to see, needed to be present. The flat tone did not come this time. Instead, the beeping grew softer, more distant, like footsteps fading down a long hallway. His father's chest rose once more, then slowly fell, and did not rise again. The monitor settled into a single, unbroken sound. Steady, cold, final. No shouting followed, no dramatic rush of doctors, just the nurse returning quietly, checking, confirming, pulling the sheet gently upward. Daniel felt tears stream freely down his face. Not violent, not loud, just constant. Years of unspoken love dissolving into that sterile air. Maya wrapped her arms around him carefully. Adam placed a hand on his father's shoulder. His daughter began to cry softly. The sun continued to rise outside the window, indifferent to grief, indifferent to pride, indifferent to secrets. Daniel closed his eyes and let the weight of everything settle. He had spent months trying to protect everyone from pain. In doing so, he had almost lost the chance to say goodbye, almost lost the chance to feel his family stand beside him instead of against him. The overtime, the lies, the suspicion, all of it felt small compared to this stillness. Hours later, when they finally wheeled his father's bed out of the room, the space felt emptier than silence itself. One monitor remained beside Daniel's bed, still beeping, still fighting, still alive. Maya looked at him with quiet determination. "We start over," she said. "No more secrets, no more carrying storms alone." Daniel nodded slowly. His chest still hurt, his future still uncertain. But as his children stood close and the morning light filled the room completely, he understood something with painful clarity. Love can survive suspicion. It can survive fear. It can survive even the sharp edge of misunderstanding. But it cannot survive silence forever. And this time, he chose to speak before the beeping ever had the chance to stop again.